Hi everyone, I am finally back to finish up my Best of Beauty series from 2024. I know we're a ways into 2025 now, but January in LA was just a disaster, literally. There was just so much going on. We were constantly ready to evacuate at any point. Everything got kind of put on delay, but I'm back. If you haven't seen already, I've already posted my Best of Beauty skincare. This is gonna be Best of Beauty makeup, and then I have one more coming with hair, body, fragrance, and like the miscellaneous beauty stuff. If you're new here, then hi, my name is Becca. A little bit about me and my makeup taste, just so you know. I'm 34, I have combo skin. I'm oily in the summer. I used to be a lot more oily. I think I'm a little bit more combo now, and I can tell my skin's getting a little bit drier, even though I do still get shiny. Someone actually left a comment in one of my shorts the other day. They said, it's like the wet hair effect for your face. I was like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I do get oily skin. That said, I feel like my makeup tastes this year have continued to become even more minimal. I do love a pop of color. I do love playful makeup, but in my day-to-day life, I'm finding that I'm appreciating shorter routines. I'm appreciating using what I have. And even though I do get to experiment with a lot of different makeup and I get PR sent to me, I get to try a lot of things, I found myself this year being quite loyal to some of my favorites, which doesn't always happen. So I'm gonna cover all of the makeup categories, starting with base and then cheeks, eyes, and lips. I will have everything timestamped below by category, and of course everything will be linked below as well. I'll also have swatches, application cutaways of as much of this as I can. I think I filmed reviews for most of these products. So let's get into it, starting with base. And I'm going to start with primer. I actually don't have any traditional primers because I just rely on my skincare. I find that's the best primer. However, I do have a favorite multitasker sort of item that I would slot in the primer category, and it is the Dior Forever Glow Star Filter in the shade 2. I love this so much. It's really grown on me through the year. I reach for it all the time. It is a liquid illuminator. It comes in 10 different shades, I think, so it's a very inclusive range, and it just gives you the most gorgeous, pearly, dewy, glowy skin. It's not dewy as in sticky, but it does give you like reflective skin. It's very much like the Charlotte Tilbury Flawless Filter. This one is a little bit more lightweight in texture and a little less like creamy. I find it is still sort of hydrating, but I actually like to use this on the high points of my face as a primer underneath whatever foundation I'm going for. I've also used it as a liquid highlighter, but even when I use it under foundation, it really does peek through. I think just because I also tend to use lighter foundations, and if I'm going for like a skin tint, I actually will just use this and sometimes just concealer or skin tint around the areas where I'm not using this. It just melts into the skin so beautifully, but there's no weight to it. It's not like heavy, it's not tacky. It just gives you the most reflective glow. I can't even describe it. I always get compliments when I use this. So I have to mention that. And then moving on to like foundations, skin tints, I'm gonna go from light to heaviest coverage or fuller coverage. My light skin tints that I am still loving are actually favorites that I've mentioned last year and maybe even the year before. So this is the Summer Fridays Sheer Skin Tint. This is what I go for when I don't want to look like I'm wearing makeup. Maybe I'm just going out to run some quick errands and I'm just using this and like a lip balm. And it's just so easy. It's sheer, but it does have a skin evening quality. And I also feel like it sort of filters the pores or any texture. It's very glowy, it stays glowy, but it actually has pretty long wear for a very light skin tint. And it's just something I reach for over and over. It's not gonna cover up, you know, extreme redness. It's not going to cover up breakouts, but it just makes your skin look good and almost like you just applied skincare. My other favorite skin tint that I used all year is the CL Tint and Protect. I've talked about this many times. I use the shade 04 Light Medium. This is a step up in coverage. I would actually say it's buildable to a medium coverage. For a skin tint, it has a lot of coverage. And this also has SPF 50. It's a mineral SPF. And I think this comes in 13 shades, I want to say. But this also really, it still looks like skin, but it gives you more coverage and it also blurs the pores. It makes my skin look glowy while still looking like skin and still looking very natural. It's also very sensitive skin friendly. And then moving into medium to high coverage, This is the product I probably reached for the most. It's my most used foundation this year. It's the Naked Sundays Beauty Screen Peptide Foundation Tint. I wear the shade 2.5 and it's what I'm wearing today. It's actually not dissimilar to the CL Skin Tint. They're both pretty fluid. They both apply beautifully. They're really thin formulas that spread across the skin. But this also, I mean, I feel like I'm repeating myself, but it really blurs over texture. This will give you more coverage, I think, than the CL, but it just looks glowy all day. It looks like your skin all day long, and I'm really surprised by the wear time of this. I've used this on very long days where I'm out from morning to late evening and my skin still looks good. I also get a lot of compliments when I wear this, so I have to mention that it also has SPF 50. Naked Sundays is an Australian skincare brand, SPF brand, that sort of dipped its toes into color a little bit more. And I'm really impressed with this. For my stick foundation pick, I actually really love the Ilia Skin Rewind Complexion Stick. I have the shade 16N that I used in the summer. Right now I'm using 12N. I actually like this. I mean, I like it all over, but I actually like this as a spot concealer almost even more. I find myself kind of throwing it in my bag if I need touch-ups throughout the day because it just melts into the skin and it has a truly undetectable finish while giving you coverage. And I'm very picky with stick foundations, but I find that this has a really sheer look to it. Like, it's really thin on the skin while remaining undetectable and still giving you coverage, and the undertones are really good. This is 12N, like I mentioned, and then 16 for summer. I do have a couple of honorable mentions that I've really been liking, but I sort of picked them up or got them later in the year. So the first one is the Jongsanmul Essential Skin Neuter Cushion. It's a K-beauty cushion. The range is not great, although I am happy to see so many more K-beauty brands coming out with bigger ranges. It's like the tier effect. I would love for them to do that with this. I wear the shade medium and it just is a very beautiful skin-like finish. I love a cushion foundation because it's so thin. You can really pat it out into like the thinnest layer with a cushion puff. It's just so easy is really the thing, and this gives you gorgeous glow. I do find that the shade medium is definitely a winter shade for me, but then the shade above that, I think there's a medium deep. That one's a little bit too deep and a little too warm. So this is a winter shade for me, winter foundation, but I did want to mention that if you do like cushion foundations. And then the last one I actually can't find. I feel like it's in one of my makeup bags, but the Huda Beauty Easy Blur Foundation. I tested this, I think in October or November, and it really surprised me. I actually really liked it. I found the coverage to be great. I found it to look really skin-like. It's a little bit fuller coverage than what I go for in my day-to-day, so it's not an everyday foundation for me. I kind of reach towards the lighter coverage most days, but I did want to shout that out because I did really enjoy it. Moving on to concealer, I have one true winner, although I do have an honorable mention. The true winner, the only concealer that has been in my makeup bag for several months, is the Danessa Myricks Yummy Skin Lift and Flex concealer. I wear the shade 4. This concealer is so good. It reminds me of the old Armani Power Fabric concealer in that it's very thin. It's a very stretchy texture. And what I mean by that is you can take a little bit and really work it across large planes of the skin without losing coverage. And it's buildable to a full coverage, but you can also sheer it out. I actually have recently, rather than applying concealer directly to my face, I've gone more for the makeup artist route, which is applying to the back of my hand and then taking a smaller brush and rather than taking it straight up to like my waterline, I have focused on doing really minimal application and sheer layers and just building where I need it. I do feel like approaching my mid-30s, I'm noticing more fine lines and stuff, which is fine, but it's changing the way that I apply concealer. And this is really beautiful. And it also looks great across the face. I don't really like to go for a bright under eye. The other concealer that I was loving in early 2024 before I picked this up was the Fenty concealer, the We're Even Hydrating Longwear Concealer. For similar reasons as this one's a little bit drier. This actually has a little bit more of a fluid texture, but they're both amazing. Great coverage, great for under eyes and the face. And I also do find a similar thing where it's a really stretchy consistency and you can really work it into the skin, and they both look super skin-like. In terms of powder, I usually go for a loose powder, but this year Tower 28 came out with their pressed powder, and it has impressed me. It does everything I want a powder to do while being so slim and compact. Sorry, I have to use tweezers to open this because I always chip my nails opening compacts. So they came out with this powder, the Get Set powder. They came out with a couple of different shades. I just like the translucent, and they also have like a pink shade, a peachier shade, a banana shade. Mine has a little bit of a hard pan only because sometimes I use my foundation brush and I cheat, and I will use it for powder too. Do as I say, not as I do. But a lot of times I bring this in my travel bag, and because I'm on the go, I use like a wet brush on this. So that's a me thing. It's not an issue with the powder, but I'm actually using it now. Maybe I'll show you to touch up. I really love this because it's so undetectable. It blurs the skin, but it doesn't add cakiness or heaviness, and it's just a really easy powder to use. I feel like I don't use a lot of powder around my under eyes much these days. I don't use a lot of powder over cream blushes or things like that. So I'm really looking for powder to knock down some shine in the T-zone, and this does that really, really well. There's no mirror in it, but I don't really mind. It makes it a lot more travel friendly and much lighter as well. And then actually, while I have this brush out, I've been loving this brush all year long. It's the BK Beauty Nikki LaRose N17 brush. I loved her whole collection. I actually have 2 or 3 of her brush collection sets. Every single brush in that collection is amazing, but I love this one because it's a multitasker. So this is brilliant that BK Beauty and Nikki did this. It's a dual-sided brush. The white side you can use for creams and liquids, and the black side you can use for powders. And for that reason, I travel with it a lot. I can actually use this for my whole face. In fact, today I used this for foundation, cream bronzer, cream blush, and then I flipped it over and I used it for my face powder. In a pinch, I could even flip this on its edge and do a little bronzer in the crease if I were on the go. It's just such a smart design. I wanted to mention that just because I've gotten so much use out of it. Finally, the last thing in the base category is setting spray. You can see this one is almost empty. It's the M Cosmetics Divine Water Perfecting Mist. It's a lot like the Charlotte Tilbury setting spray, which I also love. You can see, I mean, I've gone through multiple bottles of this one. This one is a little bit more hydrating. It also has a little bit more shine, but I've noticed that the film formers in this aren't quite as strong. Like, you get long wear out of it, but sometimes I feel like the Charlotte Tilbury setting spray, you can feel it sort of like tightening the skin as it's film forming and as it's setting down, which is what you want it to do. That's how setting sprays work. But this one has a slightly more hydrating and elegant finish to it, so I have loved it. I'm gonna get another one after this for sure. So let's move on to cheek products. Starting with cream blush, cream and liquid blush. This was the year of baby pink blush for me. It's so funny because even just a year or 2 ago, I would have said, I love a peachy blush, I love a warm blush. And that is still true, but I actually have found, and maybe this is because I'm out in the sun a lot less, I've gotten paler, and with that, my undertones are changing a little bit. They're a little bit more neutral, and I have just discovered that baby pink blush really brightens my skin tone. It makes me look more awake. I know a lot of times these blushes look almost like a pop pink, like a 60s pop pink in their packaging, but on the skin, it just does something for me. So I have 2 to mention. The first is CL January. I've reviewed these many times. It's a liquid blush with SPF 50. Don't use it for your only SPF, but I love the addition of SPF in here because your cheeks are oftentimes where you get the most visible sunspots, and this is just such a beautiful shade. It is a fresh pastel baby pink, but on my skin, it just really brightens up the skin, brightens up the complexion. I can literally just paint this across my cheeks and tap it in. I've almost used one entirely up, and I just opened another one so I can have one in my travel bag and one in my vanity at home. The other baby pink that has really taken over my life and sort of taken over CL January is the Rhode blush in the shade Piggy. It's the only shade I have from the range, although I've wanted to try others, but Piggy is just so cute, and I don't see a lot of people talk about it. I'm actually wearing it now, and I do feel like it makes my skin just look so dewy. This glow that you're seeing is just coming from the foundation, from the Naked Sundays foundation, and from the Piggy blush. I know this color might be intimidating to a lot of people, but actually when blended out on the cheeks, it's not quite as, I don't know, like baby pink pastel as you might think seeing it in the tube. And I really just think this is a shade that flatters a lot of people and they just maybe don't realize it. As far as makeup innovation goes, I feel like Milk Makeup's Cooling Water Jelly Tints really take the cake. I wore these all year long. I've done several reviews of them. They are a jelly stick and they serve as a stain, so you can use this on the cheeks or on the lips, and I wore these all year long. And they really surprised me because when these first launched, I won't lie, like early last year, I kind of thought, you know, is this a gimmick? Is this gonna look good? But they give you the most beautiful punch on the cheeks. They're so long lasting because they do stain, and they look beautiful both on cheeks and lips. I really love the shade Spritz, which is like a cherry red. And then I also love the shade Chill, which is like more of a berry sort of color. The story I tell about these and their longevity is that I wore these for a wedding that I attended, and I wore it as a wedding guest. It was a long day. We got there early. We were there all day long into the after party, and then we went in the jacuzzi after. And actually one of my sister-in-laws asked me what was on my cheeks because she was like, your blush and your lips and your makeup like haven't budged at all day long. And she's like, I need to know what color is sticking around. And I was actually wearing Chill that day. So if you want a really long wearing punchy, juicy bit of color, that's definitely what I would go for. My one word of advice is don't swipe directly on your cheeks. Take this and then grab a brush and pick it up and then tap it onto your cheeks if you're gonna use it as blush. A couple honorable mentions just because blush is one of my favorite categories. A late in the year addition was the Huda Blush Filter Liquid Blush. I only have one shade, it's Strawberry Cream, but it's the most beautiful like mid-tone pink, like mauve-y pink. And if you have oily skin, or if you struggle with cream blush lasting on your cheeks, I would definitely give this a go. I like to paint it on the back of my hand. Actually, with all of these, I sort of paint it on the back of my hand, and then I pick it up with a brush, and then I stamp it onto the cheeks for a really even application. And this also lasts all day long. I actually really want to try the new Ube shade. It's a very me sort of color right now with that cool toned lavender. And then I wanted to mention the Merit shade Bespoke in their Flesh Balm. It's funny because I reviewed the Merit blush set, their gift set for holiday, and I was like, I really wish this was a permanent shade. At first it was only limited edition. It's such a cool, like, slightly cool toned brownie rose, but it's very neutral. I feel like a lot of brownie roses lean, I don't know, they lean sort of red, but this actually has like, I don't know, it's almost like a gray undertone that makes it very neutral and cool toned. And they actually just expanded the Flesh Balm range with so many shades. I think they added like 4 or 5 new shades, including Bespoke, which is now permanent, which I'm thrilled about. So I can mention that here. This is probably the sheerest and like the least long lasting blush on this list, but I just wear it when I'm like out running errands. I don't rely on it for long wear makeup, but it does look cute and it lasts, I would say, like 4 to 5 hours before fading. And if you like a natural makeup look, this is the option that I would recommend. Okay, believe it or not, I don't have a powder blush choice just because I love my creams and liquids, especially approaching my mid-30s. I don't have a powder bronzer pick, and I only have one liquid/cream bronzer, and it is the Makeup by Mario Soft Sculpt Bronzing and Shaping Serum. I feel like this release came and went for a lot of people, but to me, it's still something I reach for almost every time I do my makeup. I'm wearing it now, actually. I have the shade Light, which is my winter shade, and then I have the shade Light Medium as well as Medium, which I used in the summer. If you like a very skin-like sort of dewy bronzer, you will love this. It's not even really like a bronzer. It's almost like it is like a bronzing serum. It adds the slightest bit of tint and shadow without a ton of pigment. It's a very nuanced, subtle sort of product. And it does have pearl like running through this. Like you can see in the bottle, there's a bit of pearliness. It looks really frosted in this. It's not. That is where I'm getting this glow like across my forehead and actually on the backs of my cheekbones right here. I love the shade Light right now now because it's so neutral. There's no peachiness, no orange. It's almost even slightly cool toned, and I feel like it just works for my skin tone right now. I'm finding myself moving away from heavy bronzer and contour. This could be a mid-30s thing too, but I also just feel like I'm realizing like I just want my skin to shine through. I work so hard at my skincare and consistency and wanting it to look good, and so in my day-to-day life, I just want to look like myself. And I feel like this is so sheer and blendable that it never looks like, oh, she's wearing a ton of bronzer. It almost looks like just the natural shadow of your skin. And this isn't even like a very deep shade. I like that it's kind of close to my skin tone in color. Don't have a powder highlighter, but I do have, I guess, a cream highlighter, although it's not marketed as that. This is the Charlotte Tilbury Unreal Skin Sheer Glow Tint in the shade 3. They released this as a skin tint in a stick, so it's almost like their version of a foundation stick. However, it's very pearly. It's like too pearly for me to wear all over, but I actually love it on the high points of my cheek. And it's almost like a cream highlighter with a little bit of coverage. And when I use this, I really do feel like my skin looks filtered. It's very blurred. It smooths over texture while still giving you this gorgeous, creamy, pearly glow. I know a lot of people like this all over. For me, it's a little too pearly all over, but I love it because it's like, yeah, it's like a cream highlighter with coverage all in one, and it just makes your skin look really good. And you can also just like swipe it on and blend it out with fingers. It's very easy to use, and it melts into the skin in like a really elegant, thin way. Moving on to eyes, starting with eyeshadow. This last year, I wore the least amount of eyeshadow I've ever worn since I started wearing makeup. There has to be a better way to say that. I just can't think of it. I didn't wear a lot of eyeshadow last year, but I do have some neutral sort of basics that really grounded some of my looks when I was wearing eyeshadow. I think that's just a trend in the industry right now, but also I've been lazier than ever with my makeup. So one of the things I want to mention has been a travel essential. I've been using travel makeup and like keeping a tight edit a lot lately since like the end of August, because Sean and I are splitting our time right now between the Bay and LA for his work. And one of the things that has been really crucial for me, which is actually not even a new release, is the Make Beauty Eye Shaping Stilo. And specifically, I really like the cool tones in this range. This is the shade Attitude. I've reviewed these before. It's a cream eyeshadow, but they don't describe it as that. It's actually a lot sheerer. It's almost like a contour stick. It's actually very similar to the Victoria Beckham Beauty contour sticks, which I didn't mention, but I do really like those. It's very creamy. It's very neutral and cool toned, although there are warmer shades in this range, and it's very blendable to the point where I feel like that's why they didn't classify it as an eyeshadow, because it's not super pigmented. It just grounds your eye look. Actually, I should use this as contour. It's just enough to give you some dimension and ground your eye looks. It's also a really good eyeshadow base if you want to use eyeshadows on top of it. But a lot of days, if I do feel like wearing something on the eyes, I kind of just like draw this all over my eye, blend it out with a finger, and that's it. There's a really good range of neutrals. It's actually only neutrals in the Stilo range. I didn't wear a lot of shimmery eyeshadow this year, but I did enjoy the Patrick Ta eyeshadow duos, specifically this Color Story. I don't think all of them are as special, but this one is. This is called We Need Better Lighting, and it's just this like topper crystally white glitter. It's like a silvery glitter and then a champagne glitter, and they just give you the most beautiful like glossy wet look on the eyes. But when I did want to amp up eye looks, I felt like it was so easy to just like use bronzer or a little bit of neutral eyeshadow, which I'll talk about, and just use this all across my eyes for a really scattered, twinkly sort of eyeshadow look. Not glittery, but it is like a micro glittery, like a pixie dust sort of look. I realize these are expensive. I'm not saying it's a need to have, but for me, it's kind of like accessories, like eye accessories. And these are just so easy to use. And I feel like it's a great way to add that bit of sparkle while still maintaining minimalism if you don't want to go out and buy a whole eyeshadow palette, but you do want to have like a go-to glitter. And then for eyeshadows, I only have two. This was a Makeup by Mario year for me. I don't know what to say. I think I mentioned this palette in last year's favorites. This is the Master Mattes, the Neutrals. And it's very neutral, leaning cool toned. These do pull a little bit grayer on me than they look in the pan. And when I did reach for eyeshadows, it was basically just this, like something in the crease or more of like a 90s sort of matte look, or pairing it with a topper. I've talked about this a million times. It's not the most exciting, but it is my most reached for, as in it's a very functional palette. And then my fun palette of the year was still neutral, but it was the Makeup by Mario Moonlight Ethereal Eyes palette. So this one actually does lean a little bit cooler than the previous ones. There are the blues and the mattes pull a little bit more gray, but I really love the topper shades in these. I find them very, very twinkly, comparable to the Patrick Ta eyeshadow duos actually. And I did like a 6 looks dedicated review of this on my channel. I don't even know if it's available anymore, but it is a palette that I reach for a lot still when I do want to do an eye look, and it's what I'm wearing today. Just some of the mattes with like a bunch of the shimmers kind of thrown on. Okay, my eyeliner picks have remained unchanged, I think, for like 5 years. Have I been doing YouTube that long? I haven't. I think I've been doing it for 4 years, but these have been my favorites the whole way through. So for a Kajal option, the Victoria Beckham Beauty Satin Kajal Liner in Cocoa is my go-to. I actually just repurchased a new one because I finished up a whole one. I think I've finished up like 2 or 3 of these. These are amazing because they're very, very blendable and they're easy to manipulate. But they do set down and they don't move once they set down, or sometimes I powder on top if I know I'm gonna have a long wear day. But they're just so creamy and they're a great way to sort of start sketching out your eyeliner, which is what I did today. And then I use a teeny tiny brush, specifically this one, the BK Beauty 208, which is the tiniest angled brush you can imagine. And then I sort of sketch out the shape I want, and it's really nice because you get a lot of time to work with this. I find that my eyeliner shape / needs are changing in my mid-30s. And just to talk about this brush a little bit, this is like their other angled brush. This is the BK Beauty Nikki La Rose N11. That's like a typical angled brush, and this is something that you could use for brows or to clean up the ends of eyeliner. But look how tiny this other brush is. And it's amazing, especially if you have a smaller eye shape or hooded eyes, to really get in there and like wiggle against the lash line. Or if you don't want a very thick line of eyeliner, sometimes I actually use the brush to pick up the eyeliner itself and get a really, really thin line. So it's amazing for precision work. If I am wearing liquid eyeliner, it's still the Surratt, the Artistique liquid eyeliner, I think. I always wear the brown shade, which is what I'm wearing now, and I love this because it's refillable. You can just buy the ink cartridges, and it's also a brush tip. I've had this eyeliner for, I don't know, over 5 years, and the tip is still just as sharp as it was, and I do clean it and wash it when I'm refilling the eyeliner. It's just amazing. I love it. Oh, and also the brush itself is very fine, so I'm able to get really, really thin lines with it. I'm also a loyalist when it comes to mascara or sort of like lash products. My Shiseido lash curler is my forever go-to. I can't live without it, and I always use my Peri Para Ink Mascara Fixer because it's a primer that actually holds your curl without adding too much product, and I find that it makes my mascara much more long wearing. If you struggle with your lashes holding a curl, you need this. And then a mascara that I have to mention that was my tubing mascara pick of the year was the Clio Kill Lash. Not this version though, the number 4 Extreme Volume, which is actually a tubing version of this mascara. There are a couple different numbers in this range. I have the like original one right now, but the number 4 is the one that's tubing, and it was my favorite buildable tubing mascara that didn't smudge, that actually held a curl all day. I actually need to repurchase it. I'm just using this sort of as a placeholder, although this is what I use today. It's just a lot harder to get off. If you've used the Clio mascaras, you know what I mean. However, However, the extreme volume version, because it's tubing, comes off easily with water, which is amazing. I'm also very much a creature of habit when it comes to my brows. The M Cosmetics Brow Cream remains my favorite brow gel. I actually use this before I go in with a brow pencil. The shade Universal Taupe is my favorite. It's so cool toned. It's not too dark. I don't like my brows to be too dark. I also love the brow pencil version of this. It's very thin. It's almost like that, like a blade shape. And the color of it is really good. This is what I have in my brows today. Although I do have a couple of other like honorable mentions. Make Beauty towards the end of last year came out with the Infinite Brow Nano Pencil, and it's actually this teeniest, tiniest little brow pencil I've ever seen. The point of it is almost like number 5 lead or number 7 lead, if you know what I mean, like a lead pencil that I used to use in school. And if you like really fine brows and hair-like strokes, you'll love this. It's like the closest thing you can get to a brow pen, like a liquid brow pen, in terms of the fineness of the stroke without committing to a liquid brow pen, which can be kind of intimidating sometimes. These are much more forgiving, and the color range is great as well. And then Glossier also came out with a brow pencil at the end of last year. Another great shade range, a little bit of a bigger pencil shape than this, but also fantastic. So I kind of use all 3 of those interchangeably. I think my Glossier pencil is in another bag right now, but 3 great brow products. And then finally, we're gonna finish off with lips, which might be the biggest category in terms of the number of products, just because lip products are also like accessories where you can sort of switch them out depending on the mood. I tried so many last year. So I'm gonna go in order of like category and consistency from sheer to pigmented. Okay, let's start with lip balms that come in squeezy tubes. I have several picks that I kind of use interchangeably. So first up is the Naturium Phyto Glow lip balms. These are so affordable. These 2 are actually almost empty. They're some of my favorite shades. This is probably my number 1 favorite, which is Latte, which is like a nude pink. But I also love Goji. This just gives you a really like super flushed cherry red lip. I love how these grip onto the lips and they're so hydrating. I do have a Naturium code, Becca15, if you ever want to use it. And then last year, Edem came out with their Le Chou Chou lip balm, and this is such a good one. They came out with a range of shades as well as a clear one that I just use as a lip balm, and they have like this metal tip. This is actually my current favorite shade. This is called Fig Sauce. It's like a berry sort of shade. So that is the Edem. That's the Naturium, which you can see has more of like a glazed look. And then of course the Rhode Peptide Lip Tints. I love their clear ones. I've emptied many of them. I only have one tinted one actually, but I wear it all the time. This is the shade Toast. And I love this one because it has this like almost cool toned brownie nude quality to it. In terms of glosses or things in doe foot applicators, some people call this lip oil, some people call it lip gloss. The names like don't mean anything anymore. My most used this year is probably something I mentioned last year, I think. This is the In Beauty Project Lip Glaze in the shade Candy Apple. I love this. I know it looks intimidating, but it makes the lips look so full and juicy, and it really does create a glazed effect over the lips. So it smooths over any lip lines, and it just makes the lips look bigger. It makes the surface of the lips look really glassy, like very smooth. It's also a grippy formula that is moisturizing, so it sticks around on the lips for a while. I have this in like every shade in the range, but Candy Apple has really stolen my heart, and I really loved a red gloss this year. Another favorite is the Haus Labs lip oil. This one is actually almost empty, I think you can see. I have the shade Guava, or this is called the Lip Glaze Gloss, sorry, not an oil. But this is also similarly very thick and it's almost like a lip treatment. It has a goopiness to it, but it's not sticky. It just really, again, sticks around on the lips, and it's grippy. That's what I call it. It's so moisturizing, and I think that's partly why I've almost used it up, is I almost use it like a lip balm, like a liquid lip balm in my handbags. And then another product I wore a ton this year, especially in the summer, was the Amuse, the gel tint. This is the shade Poksunga Jelly, another sort of baby pinky sort of shade. This was actually a little bit more of a pop of color, like that. and it does leave a bit of a stain behind. It's not moisturizing. It's not really like a gloss. It's more just like a lip tint, but I especially loved this shade in the summer. So these are all of the lip oils and glosses. Again, that's Edam Fig Sauce. That is Naturium Latte. That is Rhode Toast. This is the Amuse Poksunga Jelly. This one is in Beauty Project Candy Apple, and then this one is House Labs Guava. They all have different undertones. Some of them on the lips look more berry, look more brown, look more pink, but I sort of use them all interchangeably. These are my like go-to hydrating tinted lip products. Moving on to lip products that come in stick form. Phytosurgeons came out with tinted lip balms this year, a really beautiful range of shades. I got the clear one, which I actually use like as a lip balm and lip treatment. And then I also have the shade Warm Waves. Mine's all messed up. This is a very waxy lip balm. It's not gonna be like the melty, sort of like melts onto your lips kind of formula. They deliberately designed it to not be that. And I feel like that actually works in its favor because it stays on the lips for a really long time. It doesn't slide around. It's almost like a matte balm, but it looks so good even just paired with a lip liner if you don't want like that sticky, or if you don't like that feeling of a lip oil or a lip gloss. So that is Warm Waves. Earlier this year, Violette FR also came out with the Bisou Jelly, expanding on their original Bisou lips, I think, which were like a sheer matte. These are so fun. They have this like sheer outside part, and then the center core is more of the pigment. And they came out with, I want to say 4 shades of these. And these are also not as soft in texture, but they're so fun. And I just like to apply them. Like they're a little bit of entertainment. This is the shade Pomme d'Amour. But there are a few other shades in this range. There's also like a berry one that I like, but you can see these are on the sheerer side. And this one has just a touch more shine than the Phytosurgeons, which is more of a matte balm. And the last one I wanna mention is from a review I did back in February, I wanna say, of Rabanne Beauty when they launched at Ulta. And I know for a fact this is one of the products from them that I still reach for. This and actually their single eyeshadow, that like silvery champagne one. But this is the Love Balm, specifically in Bloody Kiss, and I love this shade. It reminds me a lot actually of Dior Mahogany, but it's a little bit more berry. And so it gives you that sort of popsicle stain kind of effect. It gives you that popsicle stain sort of effect while still remaining sheer, a lot like Clinique Black Honey, although I would say this is even more purpley than Black Honey. But if you like that sort of look, you'll like these, and I think they're very underrated. And I also find the packaging to be so cute. So those are the tinted lip balms in stick form. Again, that is the Phytosurgeons Warm Waves. That is Violette Bisou Jelly in Pomme d'Amour. And then that is the Rabanne in Bloody Kiss. And then the final category, I guess, is just straight up traditional lipsticks, but I want to mention lip liners before we get into that, just because that is the natural pairing. And this is actually a category where I think these are all new favorites. I still love all my old favorites, the Victoria Beckham, Tower 28, Makeup Forever, but I have some new favorites for sure. Let's start with the Glossier lip line. They came out with a range of lip liners this year, all in nude shades with such a good mix of undertones and a range from light to deep. My most used is probably Buff. This is like my closest nude eyeliner. It is a beautiful brownie nude. There's a slight touch of warmth to it, and they also have a pink shade. Let me find it. A pink shade that I loved called Grip. So it kind of went with my more pinky nudes, and this was my more brownie nude. And these are really creamy, but really long lasting when they set down, and they are like a sharpenable pencil. This was also something that lived in my bags this year. This is the Freck Makeout Club lip liner. This is a retractable lip liner. They also came out with maybe 5 to 6 shades. Number 3 is my favorite. This one is like the creamiest of the bunch. It's maybe the warmest of the bunch. Despite being a retractable creamy lip liner, these are also very long lasting, and they also have a pink one that I like in this range too, but this one has lived in my makeup bag. And then for a fresher take on lip liner, I really liked the Refi Blur liners. I have the shade Umber, and then I have another shade I can't find. These are kind of like a sheer waxy lip crayon that serves to create a blurred lip line without having to do all the blending out. So you can see these are much more pigmented, whereas the Refi is much more sheer. There are a lot of K-beauty brands that do this, but this is kind of the first one I've seen on the Western market. The one con is that, and I've heard this with a lot of people, is that the stick breaks off and falls out. Unfortunately, that's happened to one of mine. The other one, oh, Berry. The other one is okay, but I actually use this one more, so it's kind of a bummer. I do really like it, and I still find it usable to create that really blurred, natural, sort of more modern lip line. It's almost like a lip contour because it creates a shadow without a harsh lip line. So that is Glossier. These first two are Glossier. This middle one is Freck, and then that is the Refi Lip Blur. And then finally, lipsticks. If you're still with me, you're amazing. Let's talk about the lipstick I'm actually wearing today. So Merit came out with their signature lip mattes, which I might even love more than the original signature lip. The one that I'm wearing today is a newer shade in my collection. It's called Sunday. And I know it looks almost like this 80s pink, but it actually blends out into this really fresh, bold pink. And I actually find it pretty unique in my collection. It's not a baby pink, it's not a fuchsia, it just is this like power punchy pink. And this formula is really creamy. It is pigmented, more pigmented than their original signature lip, but it's still not full pigment. I love the flexibility. I'm actually only wearing this sort of on the center of my lip, blended outward, with a lip liner. And I do have a couple of other shades of this. I have the shade Power, which is like a cool toned red. And then I have the shade Antibes, which is a warm peach, which I've reviewed in the past. And it's just such an easy lipstick formula to wear, even if you don't frequently wear lipstick. And of course, my final pick will be no surprise to you. The Prada lipsticks have absolutely stolen my heart. It's expensive, it's luxury beauty. These are refillable. The caps and the tubes themselves are really beautiful. They're magnetic, and then you get the Prada logo. But I really love this formula, and I really love the shade range. It's not dissimilar from the Merit lipstick formula. I would say these have a little bit more powderiness to them. So they're really good for creating this like blurred lip look. This is the one I just pulled out of my bag. This is the shade P158. This one is so fun. It's like a baby 60s pink. Again, the year of baby pink for me, I guess. I did just swatch all of these in a recent favorites video, so I won't swatch all of them, but I purchased 2 or 3 and then they sent me like 5 of them. So I do have quite a collection. This is B101. There are also 2 formulas. So this is the soft matte, and then they have the hyper matte, which comes with this mixed metal tube. Like this ring is gold. This is the shade B02. One thing I do wish is that they had the actual shade names on them, but this is a little bit more pigmented and a little bit more powdery matte, whereas the soft matte has a little bit more creaminess. But despite being matte, they're still very comfortable on the lips, and they're really easy to blend out. They work so well with lip liners. The formula is just such a modern, chic kind of matte. I know this is like a nuanced thing that you have to wear a lot of lipstick to really feel the differences, but I can feel the differences, and they're also super long lasting as well. So you can see they're similar in that they're almost this like cloud puff of color. These 2 are the Prada soft matte, the middle is the Prada hyper matte, and then these are the Merit signature lip mattes. This one is actually super pigmented because I had to swatch it a couple times because it hit on like my bone here, kind of weird. But you can see they're all really nuanced, sophisticated colors with really interesting undertones. I just loved the lipstick launches this year. Honorable mention for the Westman Atelier lipsticks if you want a super pigmented, crispy lip line kind of lipstick. My most worn from them this year is Je Rêve, and of course the packaging was super chic, but they're so pigmented that it's just not a lipstick that I reach for a lot in terms of formula. Although when I want something long lasting that's gonna be like almost like a special event sort of lipstick, that's when I reach for this. But in terms of everyday wear, my Prada lipsticks and my Merit lipsticks have been my go-to, and I just love them so much. And I love that like cloud puff diffused lipstick sort of look that's come back. So that is it. We made it. Again, if you're still with me at the end of this video, thank you so much for watching. These videos always give me anxiety because I'm like, I'm gonna forget something that I loved, and I'm sure I have, but I also tried to be as inclusive as possible with my suggestions, so I'm sure there's something here that might be for you. If you have any questions about any of the products and how to use them, let me know in the comments below. I'd also love to hear your 2024 makeup favorites, even though we're well into 2025 now. I'm actually filming this on Lunar New Year. You won't be watching this on Lunar New Year, but Happy New Year. I've decided January doesn't count at all. I do have one more video coming with my hair, body care, fragrance favorites, so I will see you in the next one, and thanks for watching. Bye!